remember, and offer. In the integral yoga, the integral life down even to the smallest detail has to be transformed to be divinized. There is nothing here that is insignificant, nothing that is indifferent. You cannot say, when I am meditating, reading philosophy, or listening to these conversations, I'll be in this condition of an opening towards the light and call for it. But when I go out to talk or see friends, I can allow myself to forget about it. To persist in this attitude means that you will remain untransformed and never have the true union. Always you will be divided. You will have at best only glimpses of this great life. For although certain experiences and realizations may come to you in meditation or in your inner consciousness, your body and your outer life will remain unchanged. An inner illumination that does not take any note of the body and the outer life is of no great use, for it leaves the world as it is. This is what has continually happened till now. Even those who had a very great and powerful realization withdrew from the world to live undisturbed in inner quiet and peace. The world was left to its ways and misery and stupidity. Death and ignorance continued unaffected their reign on this material plane of existence. For those who thus withdraw, it may be pleasant to escape from this turmoil, to run away from the difficulty, and to find for themselves a happy condition elsewhere, but they leave the world and life uncorrected and untransformed, and their own outer consciousness too they leave unchanged, and their bodies as unregenerate as ever. Coming back to the physical world, they are likely to be worse there than even ordinary people, for they have lost the mastery over material things, and their dealing with physical life is likely to be slowly and helpless in its movements and at the mercy of every passing force. An ideal of this kind may be good for those who want it, but it is not for our yoga. For we want the divine conquest of this world, the conquest of all its movements and the realization of the divine here. But if we want the divine to reign here, we must give all we have and do here to the divine. It will not do to think that anything is unimportant or that the external life and its necessities are no part of the divine life. If we do, we shall remain where we have always been, and there will be no conquest of the eternal world. Nothing abiding there will have been done. When we are concentrated in mental movements or intellectual pursuits, why do we sometimes forget or lose touch with the divine? You lose it because your consciousness is still divided. The divine has not settled into your mind. You are not wholly consecrated to the divine life. Otherwise, you could concentrate to any extent upon such things, and still you would have the sense of being helped and supported by the divine. In all pursuits, intellectual or active, your one motto should be remember and offer. Let whatever you do be done as an offering to the divine. And this too will be an excellent discipline for you. It will prevent you from doing many foolish and useless things. Often in the beginning of the action this can be done, but as one gets engrossed in the work and one forgets. How is one to remember? The condition to be aimed at, the real achievement of yoga, the final perfection and attainment, for which all else is only a preparation, is a consciousness in which it is impossible to do anything without the divine. For then, if you are without the divine, the very source of your action disappears. Knowledge, power, all are gone. But so long as you feel that the powers you use are your own, you will not miss the divine support. In the beginning of the yoga, you are apt to forget the divine very often. But by constant aspiration, you increase your remembrance and you diminish the forgetfulness. But this should not be done as a severe discipline or a duty. It must be a movement of love and joy. Then very soon a stage will come when, if you do not feel the presence of the divine at every moment and whatever you are doing, you feel at once lonely and sad and miserable. Whenever you find that you can do something without feeling the presence of the divine and yet be perfectly comfortable, you must understand that you are not consecrated in that part of your being. That is the way of the ordinary humanity which does not feel any need of the divine. But for a seeker of the divine life, it is very different. And when you have entirely realized unity with the divine, then if the divine were only for a second to withdraw from you, you would simply drop dead. For the divine is now the life, your whole existence, your single and complete support. If the divine is not there, nothing is left.